Ben wasn't your typical dad. He worked at the local hardware store, a place filled with the scent of sawdust and metal. His hands were calloused but gentle. He lived in a small, cozy house on the edge of town, a house that always felt a little too quiet. His wife, Sarah, had passed away a few years ago. A sickness took her too soon, leaving Ben heartbroken. He missed her laugh, her warm hugs, and the way she always knew how to make him smile. He often sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset, remembering her. Being alone wasn't easy, especially with the silence that echoed through the house. He often thought about adopting a child, filling the empty rooms with laughter and joy. He imagined teaching a little one how to build a birdhouse or how to plant a garden, just like Sarah had taught him. But the adoption process seemed daunting, filled with paperwork and interviews. He wasn't sure he was ready to face it all by himself. He yearned for connection, for someone to share his life with. He wanted to tell bedtime stories, to wipe away tears, and to watch a child grow and learn. He longed for the simple joys of parenthood, the messy moments, and the unconditional love. He wanted a family, a reason to come home to a house filled with warmth and happiness instead of just silence. He was a good man, with a good heart, just waiting for the right opportunity to share it. He just didn't know that opportunity was about to arrive in the most unexpected way. One evening, after a particularly long day of helping customers find the right nails and screws, Ben decided to take a shortcut home. Instead of sticking to the main road, he cut through the woods, a path that ran alongside the old railroad tracks. He liked the quiet of the woods, the way the trees filtered the sunlight and the smell of damp earth. It was a peaceful escape from the noise of the town. As he walked, he heard a sound. At first, he thought it was just the wind rustling through the leaves. But then he heard it again, a small, plaintive cry. It sounded like a baby. Ben stopped walking and listened carefully. The crying came again, a little louder this time. He cautiously moved closer to the railroad tracks, peering through the tall grass. He saw something nestled between the rails, a small wicker basket. His heart pounded in his chest. He quickened his pace, his mind racing. What was a baby doing out here, all alone? He carefully approached the basket, his hands trembling. He peeked inside. There, wrapped in a soft, blue blanket, was a baby girl. Her eyes were closed and her tiny face was scrunched up in a cry. She looked so small and vulnerable, so utterly helpless. Ben's heart melted. He couldn't believe someone would abandon a baby like this. He knew, in that instant, his life was about to change forever. The quiet life he had known was over. Ben felt a wave of emotions wash over him, shock, disbelief, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. His first thought was, what do I do? He had never held a baby before, let alone cared for one. He felt completely unprepared. His hands trembled as he gently lifted the baby from the basket. She was so light, so fragile. He held her close to his chest, trying to offer her some comfort. The crying softened, turning into small whimpers. He looked around, searching for any sign of the baby's parents. Was someone nearby, watching? Had they simply stepped away for a moment? He called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" His voice echoed through the woods, but there was no response. He knew he couldn't leave the baby there. It was getting dark, and the night air was growing colder. He had to get her somewhere safe and warm. But where? His house was the only option that came to mind. He carefully wrapped the blanket tighter around the baby and started walking back towards town, his mind racing. He needed to call the police, but first, he had to make sure the baby was okay. He felt a surge of protectiveness, a fierce determination to care for this little one. Despite his fear and uncertainty, he knew he couldn't abandon her. He was all she had. He decided he would take her home, give her food, and make sure she was safe before calling the authorities. He walked faster, holding the baby close, a newfound purpose filling his heart. Back at his house, Ben carefully laid the baby on his bed. He rummaged through his linen closet, finding the softest blanket he could. He didn't have any baby supplies, of course. He'd have to get some tomorrow. For now, he needed to clean her up and feed her. He dampened a washcloth and gently wiped her face and hands. Her skin was so smooth and delicate. He noticed she had a small birthmark on her wrist, shaped like a tiny star. He smiled softly. He remembered seeing a can of powdered formula in the back of his pantry, a sample someone had given him months ago. He hoped it wasn't expired. He quickly mixed it with water and warmed it up. He carefully offered the bottle to the baby. She latched onto it immediately, sucking eagerly. Ben watched her, mesmerized. He couldn't believe how natural it felt to care for her. He felt a connection, a bond forming between them. As she drank, he thought about what to name her. He wanted something special, something that suited her. He looked at her tiny face, her bright eyes, and the way she seemed to glow with innocence. "Lily," he whispered. "I think I'll call you Lily." Lily gurgled and smiled as if she liked the name. Ben chuckled. He knew it was just a coincidence, but it felt like a sign. He finished feeding her and gently burped her. He looked at her, nestled in his arms, and realized that his life had changed forever. He wasn't just Ben anymore. He was Lily's dad. He finally had the family he had always longed for, even if it wasn't in the way he expected. After feeding her, he called the police. The police arrived a short while later, a young officer named Officer Miller and a kind-faced policewoman, Officer Jones. Ben explained everything, his voice still shaking slightly from the ordeal. He showed them the basket, the blanket, and the formula can. Officer Jones held Lily gently, examining her. "She seems healthy," she said, smiling at Ben. "You did a good thing bringing her in." Officer Miller took notes, asking questions about where he found Lily and if he saw anyone suspicious. He explained that they would need to investigate to try and find Lily's parents. He mentioned that if they couldn't find them, Lily would likely have to go into foster care. Ben's heart sank. The thought of Lily being taken away was unbearable. He had only known her for a few hours, but he already felt a deep connection to her. He couldn't imagine her being raised by strangers. "Is there any chance?" Ben began hesitantly. "Is there any chance I could keep her? Just until you find her parents." Officer Miller exchanged a look with Officer Jones. "We'll see," he said. "We have to follow procedure. But we'll keep you in mind." The police left, promising to keep Ben updated. He watched them drive away, a knot of anxiety forming in his stomach. He held Lily close, whispering, "Don't worry, little one. I won't let them take you away." He knew he had to do everything he could to keep her safe and with him. He didn't care what procedure was. Lily belonged with him now. He felt it in his bones. He started thinking about how he could convince them. Maybe he could take some parenting classes. Maybe he could show them his house. Whatever it took. Days turned into weeks and the police investigation stalled. They found no leads, no clues about Lily's parents. Ben visited the police station every day, hoping for news, but there was nothing. Each time, Officer Miller looked more and more sympathetic, but his hands were tied. "We've contacted social services," Officer Miller finally said one afternoon. "They're going to start the process of finding a foster home for Lily." Ben's heart plummeted. He felt a wave of despair wash over him. He pleaded with Officer Miller, offering to take parenting classes, to open his home to inspection, anything to prove he was a capable caregiver. Officer Miller sighed. "Ben, I understand. But there are rules. You're a single man and you found her abandoned. It's not that we don't trust you, but—" Ben interrupted. "But what? I love her. I may not have known her long, but she's a part of me now." That night, Ben was feeding Lily when he noticed something strange. He had hung a mobile above her crib, a simple one with colorful stars and moons. As he watched, one of the stars began to glow faintly, a soft, ethereal light. It wasn't the kind of glow that came from a light bulb, it was something different. He blinked, thinking he was imagining things. But then it happened again. The star glowed brighter, and Lily reached out her tiny hand as if trying to touch it. Ben stared, his mind reeling. He knew in that moment that Lily was no ordinary baby. Something extraordinary was happening. He wasn't just fighting to keep a child, he was protecting something special. The glowing star was just the beginning. Over the next few days, Ben witnessed more and more unusual occurrences. One afternoon, he was reading a book aloud to Lily when he accidentally knocked over a stack of blocks. Before they could hit the ground, they seemed to freeze in midair, hovering for a moment before gently floating back down to the floor. Another time, he was struggling to open a jar of pickles. Lily, who was sitting in her high chair, gurgled and pointed at the jar. Suddenly, the lid popped open with ease. Ben stared at the jar, then at Lily, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. He also noticed that Lily seemed to have an uncanny ability to sense his emotions. When he was feeling sad or anxious, she would reach out and touch his face, her tiny hand offering comfort. And when he was happy, she would beam with joy, as if she could feel his happiness too. Ben tried to rationalize what he was seeing. Maybe it was just his imagination. Maybe he was sleep-deprived. But deep down, he knew that something extraordinary was happening. Lily was different. She possessed abilities that defied explanation. He felt a growing sense of wonder, but also a flicker of fear. What did this mean? And what would happen when others found out about Lily's secret? He knew he had to protect her, not just from the foster care system, but from anyone who might want to exploit her powers. His quiet life was gone, replaced by a mystery he was only beginning to understand. Now the question was, what was he going to do about it? Sleep became a luxury. Ben spent most nights wide awake, watching Lily, trying to understand her. He knew he couldn't deny what he was seeing any longer. The glowing objects, the telekinesis, the empathy, it was all real. Lily was no ordinary baby. He started researching online, searching for anything that might explain her abilities. He read about psychics, telepaths, and people with extraordinary gifts. He even delved into mythology, exploring stories of fairies, angels, and other supernatural beings. He spent hours at the library poring over books on folklore and ancient legends. He discovered tales of children born with special powers, children who were said to be touched by magic. He found a recurring theme in these stories. These children were often hunted, feared, or exploited for their abilities. The more he learned, the more concerned he became. He realized that Lily's secret was not just a curiosity, it was a danger. If the wrong people found out about her, they would try to take her, to control her, to use her for their own purposes. He knew he had to protect her, but he didn't know how. He was just a simple hardware store worker, a single dad who was suddenly thrust into a world of magic and mystery. He felt completely out of his depth. But he also knew that he couldn't give up. Lily was counting on him. He was her protector, her guardian, and he would do whatever it took to keep her safe, even if it meant facing dangers he couldn't even imagine. He needed to understand more, and fast. The library became Ben's second home. He devoured books about ancient civilizations, forgotten gods, and magical creatures. He stumbled upon a legend about star children, beings born under a specific alignment of constellations said to possess incredible powers tied to the cosmos. The description eerily matched Lily's birthmark and her ability to make things glow. He found another story about a hidden race of beings called the Lumina, descendants of celestial beings who could manipulate light and energy. They were said to be incredibly rare, almost mythical, and fiercely protective of their own. The Lumina were often associated with acts of kindness and healing, but they were also known to defend themselves fiercely when threatened. One evening, as Ben was reading about the Lumina, he heard a strange noise outside. He peeked through the curtains and saw a dark figure standing across the street, watching his house. The figure was cloaked and hooded, its face obscured by shadows. Ben's heart pounded in his chest. He quickly drew the curtains and grabbed Lily, holding her close. He knew with a chilling certainty that someone was looking for her. His research had inadvertently attracted attention. He was no longer just protecting Lily from the foster care system, he was protecting her from something far more sinister, something that lurked in the shadows and craved her power. The game had changed and the stakes were higher than ever. He was terrified, but he was also determined to protect Lily no matter the cost. He had to be smarter, more careful, and more prepared for whatever was coming. The appearance of the hooded figure marked a turning point. Ben no longer felt safe in his own home. He started noticing other strange things, shadows flickering in the corners of his eyes, whispers on the wind when there was no one around, and a constant feeling of being watched. He installed new locks on his doors and windows. He bought a security system and motion sensor lights for his yard. He even started sleeping with a baseball bat next to his bed. He knew it wasn't much, but it was all he could think of to protect Lily. He stopped going to the library, fearing that he would be followed. He covered his windows with thick curtains, creating a sense of isolation in his home. He tried to maintain a normal routine for Lily, but it was difficult. He was constantly on edge, scanning his surroundings for any sign of danger. One night, he woke up to a scratching sound at his window. He grabbed the baseball bat and crept towards the window, his heart pounding in his chest. He peeked through the curtains and saw a pair of glowing eyes staring back at him. It wasn't human. It was some kind of animal, but its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The creature scratched at the window again, then let out a low growl before disappearing into the darkness. Ben stood there, frozen with fear. He knew that whatever was after Lily was getting closer, and he was running out of time. He had to find a way to protect her, to keep her safe from the forces that were gathering around them. He decided he would learn how to fight, even if it scared him. Lily was worth it. He'd face his fears head-on. Ben started taking self-defense classes at the local community center. He felt awkward and clumsy at first, surrounded by younger, more experienced students. But he was determined to learn. He practiced every day, pushing himself harder and harder. He imagined the hooded figure, the glowing-eyed creature, all the potential threats to Lily, and that fueled his resolve. He also spent hours researching home security, learning about different alarm systems, surveillance cameras, and defensive tactics. He turned his house into a fortress, a safe haven for Lily. He installed reinforced doors, blackout curtains, and a state-of-the-art security system. He kept Lily's secret close to his chest, telling no one about her powers. He knew that the fewer people who knew, the safer she would be. He even avoided talking about her with Officer Miller and Officer Jones, fearing that they might accidentally reveal something to the wrong person. He became obsessed with protecting Lily, his entire life revolving around her safety. He knew it wasn't a normal life, but it was his life now. He was willing to sacrifice everything to keep her safe, to give her a chance to live a normal life, even if it meant living in constant fear. He transformed from a lonely hardware store worker into a vigilant protector, a father willing to do anything for his child. He knew it was only a matter of time before the threat came knocking, and he had to be ready. He had to be strong enough to face whatever came his way. He had to be Lily's shield. The confrontation came on a stormy night. Lightning flashed, illuminating the trees outside Ben's house, and thunder rattled the windows. He heard a loud bang on the front door, followed by a voice shouting, "Open up. We know she's in there." Ben grabbed the baseball bat and cautiously approached the door. He peeked through the peephole and saw 3 figures standing on his porch, their faces grim and determined. One of them was the hooded figure he had seen before. He hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and opened the door. "Who are you? What do you want?" he demanded, his voice trembling slightly. The hooded figure stepped forward. "We're here for Lily," the figure said, its voice raspy and cold. "She belongs with us." Another figure, a woman with piercing blue eyes, spoke up. "She's one of us, Illumina. Her powers are needed." Ben stood his ground, clutching the baseball bat tightly. "She's my daughter," he said, "and I won't let you take her." The hooded figure chuckled. "You can't protect her forever. Her powers are growing stronger. Soon, she won't be able to control them." The woman added, "We can help her. We can teach her how to use her abilities, how to control them. She'll be safe with us, among her own kind." Ben stared at them, his mind racing. He didn't know what to believe. Were they telling the truth? Were they really there to help Lily? Or did they just want to exploit her powers? He looked at Lily, who was watching from her crib, her eyes wide with fear. He knew he had to make a choice that would determine her future. He'd have to trust his gut. Ben looked into Lily's eyes. He saw fear, but he also saw trust. She was looking to him for guidance, for protection. He knew in that moment that he couldn't let her go. He didn't care if they were her own kind or if they could teach her to control her powers. He was her father now, and his job was to protect her no matter what. "I don't believe you," Ben said, his voice firm. "You say you want to help her, but I don't trust you. I don't know what your true intentions are, and I'm not willing to risk Lily's safety." The hooded figure sighed. "You're making a mistake," he said. "You can't protect her from who she is." "Maybe not," Ben replied, "but I can protect her from you." He raised the baseball bat, his knuckles white. "Get off my property. Now." The woman with blue eyes stepped forward, her expression hardening. "We don't want to hurt you," she said. "Just give us the girl and we'll leave." "I said get off my property," Ben shouted, swinging the baseball bat. The hooded figure nodded to the others and they stepped back, disappearing into the stormy night. "This isn't over," the hooded figure said, his voice echoing in the darkness. "We'll be back." Ben watched them go, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew they would be back, but he was ready. He would do whatever it took to protect Lily, even if it meant facing enemies he couldn't even comprehend. He closed the door and locked it, then went to Lily's crib and picked her up, holding her close. "I've got you, little one," he whispered. "I won't let them take you." He knew in his heart that he made the right decision. He had to protect Lily. He loved her. They returned the next night, bolder and more determined. They bypassed Ben's security system with ease, their movements swift and silent. Ben, who was waiting with the baseball bat, was caught off guard. The hooded figure lunged at him and a fierce struggle ensued. Ben, fueled by adrenaline and a fierce love for Lily, fought with a strength he didn't know he possessed. He dodged blows, landed a few punches, and managed to keep the hooded figure at bay. But he was outnumbered and the other 2 Lumina were closing in. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. Lily, sensing the danger, began to cry. As her cries grew louder, a soft, golden light filled the room. The Lumina stumbled back, shielding their eyes. The light intensified, pushing them away from Ben. Ben, confused but grateful, used the opportunity to grab Lily and run. He knew he couldn't stay in the house. It wasn't safe anymore. He raced out the back door into the storm, hoping to lose them in the darkness. The Lumina pursued him, their figures glowing faintly in the night. Ben, using his knowledge of the woods, led them on a chase through the trees, dodging branches and leaping over fallen logs. He felt a surge of energy, a newfound strength that allowed him to move faster and think clearer. He realized he wasn't just protecting Lily, He was protecting himself, and he was capable of more than he ever thought possible. He found an old abandoned shed and hid inside, hoping they wouldn't find him. The Lumina eventually found the shed. Ben, armed with only the baseball bat, braced himself for another fight. But instead of attacking, the woman with blue eyes stepped forward, her expression softened. "We don't want to hurt you, Ben," she said. "We just want what's best for Lily." Ben hesitated, lowering the bat slightly. "Then leave us alone," he said. "Let me raise her in peace." The woman sighed. "It's not that simple. Her powers will continue to grow and she'll need guidance. We can offer her that guidance, a safe place to learn and grow." "I can give her that too," Ben said. "I may not know anything about her powers, but I love her and I'll do whatever it takes to help her understand them." The woman looked at Lily, who was watching them with wide, innocent eyes. She seemed to sense the tension in the air, but she didn't cry. She simply reached out her hand towards Ben, as if offering him comfort. The woman smiled sadly. "You really love her, don't you?" she said. Ben nodded, his voice choked with emotion. "More than anything in the world." The hooded figure stepped forward. "All right," he said. "We'll leave you alone. But know this, Ben, her powers will attract attention. You'll have to be vigilant." The Lumina turned and disappeared into the night, leaving Ben alone with Lily in the shed. He knew they were right. Lily's powers would continue to be a threat. But he was no longer afraid. He had faced his fears and he had discovered a strength within himself that he never knew existed. He knew he could handle whatever came his way as long as he had Lily by his side. He accepted that Lily was special, different, and he was ready to embrace her true nature and help her become the best version of herself. He would dedicate his life to that. Ben and Lily returned home, their lives forever changed. The police, after hearing Ben's story and investigating the damage to his house, were more understanding. They couldn't explain what had happened, but they agreed to keep a closer eye on the neighborhood. Ben continued to work at the hardware store, but he also dedicated himself to learning about Lily's powers. He read books, consulted experts, and even reached out to some of the contacts he had made during his research. He learned that Lily was indeed a Lumina, a being of light and energy, and that her powers would continue to grow as she got older. He helped Lily understand her abilities, teaching her how to control them, how to use them for good, and how to protect herself from those who might want to exploit them. He created a safe and loving environment for her where she could explore her powers without fear. They faced many challenges along the way. There were moments of fear, moments of doubt, and moments when Ben wondered if he was doing the right thing. But through it all, their love for each other grew stronger. They had become a family, an unusual family, but a family nonetheless. Years passed and Lily grew into a strong, confident young woman, her powers shining brightly. She used her abilities to help others, to heal the sick, and to bring light to the darkness. Ben watched her, filled with pride and love. He knew he had made the right choice all those years ago when he decided to take her home. He learned that family wasn't just about blood, it was about love, loyalty, and acceptance. And as Lily looked towards the stars, Ben knew this was only the beginning of their adventures together. The end. For now.